If you do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you do understand will confuse you. In all of these 9 areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Anywhere on the planet, minute by minute, day by day, all of the time, all of the time, all of the time.
Good morning, my good brothers and sisters, and welcome to the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely, or also commonly referred to as the CRTF. This is the June the 14th, 2022 edition. Again, welcome to the program. We have on the line, live from Washington, D.C., Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. I am your co-host. I will introduce him to some of presenting him to others in a moment. A word here. Mr. Fuller, I understand, will be on the Carl Nelson Show this coming Thursday. So today is Tuesday, so that will be the June the 16th. Now put this down. June the 16th, 2022, on the Carl Nelson Show from 8 a.m. until 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time. He will be on that show. I understand the information is on the website if you would like to check that out. But tell your friends that Mr. Fuller will be on early in the morning, 8 a.m. until 10 a.m. on the Carl Nelson Show. That is the radio station is WOL in Washington, D.C., 95 point, what is Mr. Fuller, 95.9 or 95.5 FM?
That's 1450 on AM.
Yes.
And 95.5.
Okay.
I haven't looked at it. 95
on FM. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right. FM.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, but also you can get it on our. If you go to producejustice.com, there's a space there that the show can be heard on our at producejustice.com. So they worked that out. Our technicians. Thank you, Robert, Moon Pie, and Sharon. Yeah, it's all worked out there, so you can get it there. Mr. Fuller will be on from 8 a.m. until 10 a.m. on this coming Thursday. So look forward to seeing that. You can also call this number if you'd like to speak with Mr. Fuller, and I encourage you to do that. You can do that by calling this number here, 516-453-9921, and you may press the number 1 button if you have a call, or rather if you have a comment or if you have a question. When you do that, be sure to tell the call screener your name so that I know who you are. Thank you, Black Mermaid. Yeah, thank you. They did that. But, yeah, that way I can properly identify you and get you on there. Now, bear in mind, I'm going to make some mistakes today. That's just part of my learning process. I am not deliberately, but going to mispronounce your name sometimes if I don't phonetically try to get it together. But anyway, you can help me out by telling me how do you want your name pronounced if you can. You can also Gmail me, by the way, by going to the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, @gmail.com. Now, chances are it will not be read today, but it could be. But you can confirm that I have received it because now I'm beginning to put the phrase "got it" on there, and that's to let you know that I have received it. And at a certain point in time, I will read it and give you, when I do, the date and the times that it will be read, so you can hear your Gmail. And, of course, you can go into the chat room, and all you have to do is go to blogtalkradio.com, and then you want to go to shows where it says the Produce Justice Show or programs. Tap that or click on that, and then once you click on that, then the availability to get into the chat room is there. Just click that, and you are in the chat room, so you can do that. You can do that. Now, you know, if you are a true believer in producing justice, then you are to govern yourselves accordingly. No name calling. Somebody did that last week, may be on again. This week, I don't know. I'm not going to call that person's name out, but you know who they are because they're not following the code. They're very easily identifiable, but it doesn't matter. Anybody can get on it, and you know, as long as you're following the code and doing what you can to produce justice, then you are good. That's what this whole program is about. Thank you, John in Houston and Darnell in New York. Swa, you up early this morning. Thank you for being on there. In the chat room, one of the people that does things is Constructive Actions Items, which gives a rundown of last week's show, so you can be familiar with what we are talking about. And note to new callers, if you are a new caller, if you're just listening, if you are a new caller, make sure that if you want to call or have something to say, call that number, which is, you're already on here, but anyway, 516-453-9921. And tell the call screener that you are a new caller, and we have a special arrangement made up for all call screeners, and you will be heard, okay? Okay, now without further ado, I'm going to present to some and introduce to others Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. And Mr. Fuller, as is my custom, to start each program out that we have, how are you today?
I'm still learning.
You are still learning. Okay, now we developed this, but not perfected it, but we are developing a introduction called Thoughts and Expressions from the Mind of Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr., what are your thoughts or expressions that you would like to open up today's program with?
Well, recently, actually, not just recently, but for some time now, people have been talking about health as a part of the 9 areas of activity, and health should be added as a 10th one. And I have explained that, I had to have a cutoff point somewhere, so I just went up to 9, and I could have had maybe 20 or 30 categories, but I said 9 would do, and I incorporated health, anything dealing with health, in the first area of activity, which was economics in the counter-racist code. And economics I defined as how you use your time and energy. And the concept is, if a person uses his or her time and energy correctly in all areas of activity, that is health. So that's what's been on my mind lately, to put a little flesh on what I was saying from the perspective that I have. Of course, if a person wants to add more and more categories, failure, success as categories, you can have maybe 100 categories. It's all up to the individual. It's called the United Independent Compensatory Code, which means the individual decides just how far they want to go in any direction to do what they think needs to be done to solve problems. So you can use as many tools as you wish to have. The basic code book that I have put out is just a guidebook, but then a person can take off and go in
whatever direction he or she wants to go in, as far as saying, well, I want to talk about something else other than what just Neely Puller's been talking about, because there's some things he hasn't talked about at all. But I'm going to talk about them to the people that I know. And first of all, I'm going to talk to myself about these things, because it all comes down to just one thing: the individual solving his or her problems. And if someone else is interested in how they went about doing it, the individual person, well, they can talk to the person who solved that problem according to his or her circumstances. And then the person who is talking to one person, one victim of white supremacy, to another, say, well, I think that I'll use the format that you use to solve the problem that I have, because it sounds like the same thing, and I prefer your approach from what I did the last time, using that as a scenario. That's how the compensatory code system is supposed to work. The individual victim of white supremacy, that's what the concept is for, chooses how they are going to, the individual victim is going to react to the existence of the system of white supremacy and to the person who is a victim of it reacting to it in a manner that will produce the most constructive result in any area of activity. So recently I was thinking about health, and I was thinking about healthy minds. So like I've said many times on this presentation, and also in the code books volumes, all problems are solved through the process of questions and answers. Now that statement is either true or false, but I said all, A-L-L, underline. All problems, any problem that a person has, or a creature has, or any problem that exists in the known universe that involves creatures of any kind, even what we call animals, solve problems through the process of questions and answers. Animals ask themselves and other animals questions in their own language. They do communicate. Birds communicate with each other in problem solving. So it comes down to, if you're solving a problem and producing a constructive result in solving the problem, then that is mental health, whether it's in a creature or in a person. So here's the question here, during the existence of the system of white supremacy. And here's the question as follows about mental, I would say healthy minds, quote unquote. During the existence of the system of white supremacy, how many people in the known universe are mentally healthy? I'm going to ask this question again and then offer what I say is the correct and most constructive answer, in my opinion. But to this question, during the existence of the system of white supremacy, which is racism, how many people in the known universe are mentally healthy? Now, the compensatory code, after I thought about it, I said, now, what's the answer to that question, the correct answer? Because an answer is either correct or it's not an answer, or it's what most people would call an incorrect answer. But an incorrect answer is not an answer, really, to a question. But you can put them in the categories of correct or incorrect. But I'll ask it again. Regardless of personalities, in Neely Puller's opinion, practice based on logic and evidence. During the existence of the system of white supremacy, how many people in the known universe are mentally healthy? According to the compensatory code, the answer is none. Now, having said that, since I made that comment, gave that answer, one word, none, do I know all the people in the known universe? That's the next logical question. No. But I'm assuming that white supremacy exists, and it's the dominant government on the planet. So anybody who comes under that dominant government, called the system of white supremacy, is not mentally healthy. Anybody who functions in that government cannot be mentally healthy. Why? Because the system of white supremacy is a non-just system. Non-justice means out of balance. You're not correctly balanced in your mind, because that's where justice would have to be produced. So therefore, in the absence of justice, there cannot be any mentally healthy people. In the absence of justice, justice between people, or interaction between people that is not just, logically speaking, if you follow the logic, cannot be mentally healthy. There's no health in their minds at all. You're functioning with a non-healthy mind. Because if you are subject to a government that does not promote mental health, which means practice justice, that's mental health. Practicing justice is a huge element in mental health, an absolute requirement. And if you're not practicing justice, you're not mentally healthy. And no one can practice justice in the system of white supremacy. It's impossible. So that's why that none, period, is the answer to that question. During the existence of the system of white supremacy, how many people in the known universe are mentally healthy? And the answer is none, according to the compensatory counter-racist code. Now, that answer is either true or false.
All righty. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. That was the thoughts and expressions on the mind, or from the mind of Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. Let's go to the phone lines here, and we're going to start off in Minnesota. The Black Mermaid, you are front and center. What is your question? Good morning, and what is your question for Mr. Fuller?
Yes, good morning. I just want to make the comment that I'm glad that Mr. Fuller mentioned basically how racism and white supremacy does affect, our mental health. But I have a two-part question if we have time. So my first question is, Mr. Fuller, you said that every white person must decide if they will or will not practice white supremacy. My question is, do white people who decide to be a white supremacist do white people who decide to be a white supremacist make this choice because they are evil, and do white people who choose not to be a white supremacist make this choice because they are good people?
Oh, I don't know. 3 words there. I don't know. I don't know what a good person is. And what's the other element you mentioned? You said white people being good people, and you said something about them being something else. I didn't quite remember that.
I was saying, so do the white people who choose to be white supremacists, do they make that choice out of being evil, and the white people who choose not to be a white supremacist make that choice out of being good?
I don't know, because I don't know the nature of good and evil, other than systems can be good or evil, or at least evil. Now, as far as I can go, I just say evil is anything that's incorrect when it should be correct. The system of white supremacy is not a correct system for the people of the known universe, of this universe. Why? Because it's designed to harm people, deliberately designed to harm people for the benefit of other people. And the benefits, according to the other people that is designed to benefit, what they get out of it are three basic things that all people want. And that is fun, glory, and material comfort. All people and all creatures want fun, glory, and material comfort. Now, there's nothing incorrect about that. But how you go about getting it is either correct or non-correct. The white supremacists have chosen, through the system of white supremacy, to get those three things by dominating and mistreating people based on color. You can get the same result, fun, glory, and material comfort, by practicing justice, theoretically, because justice has never been practiced by anybody in recorded history. Justice meaning guaranteeing that no person is mistreated under any circumstance, and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help under all circumstances. There is no record of that ever being done in recorded history by anybody anywhere. But the system of white supremacy is built to prevent the practice of justice. But getting back to the core of your question, I don't know how the first white person, and then got other white people to get on board with it, came to the conclusion or got the idea and decided to stick with it. Those white people who did, not saying all white people, but certainly the ones who were smarter and more powerful than the others, decided to run the entire planet called Earth on the basis of dominating and mistreating people who had color in their skin, because that's what white supremacy is about, in order to get those three things that I mentioned for white people: fun, glory, material comfort. And that system needs to be replaced, logically speaking, with a better system. The better system, theoretically, would be justice, where you can get fun, glory, and material comfort without mistreating anybody. And particularly on something like the color of one's skin, because that's what white supremacy is. It's called racism or white supremacy, and according to the code, there's no other form of racism either, other than white supremacy, simply because, logically speaking, you can't have two supremes in the same space. You can't have white supremacy and any other type of governmental supremacy on the same planet at the same time. It's either or.
All right. Thank you. The Black Mermaid from Minnesota. Thank you for your call. Let me do this quickly here and get this out the way. Matter of fact, station break. You are listening to the Counter Racist Code Show here on Blog Talk Radio, and we are glad you are. Now, to get in contact with the show, just simply call this number, and that is 516-453-9921. And if you do that, make sure, if you want to do that or have a comment, just press the number 1 button. And then when the call screener comes on, give your name, and then you'll be on so that I can see who you are and introduce you to the world. You can also Gmail me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, @gmail.com. And, of course, when I receive it, I will give you the got it so that you know that I have it. And it will be read at a certain time, whatever that is, may be, and I will inform you of that. And you can also join the chat room by going to blogtalkradio.com. You want to click on programs, and there is, when you do that, then or shows, the Produce Justice show comes up, or program comes up. Click that, and then you can click on the chat room that will be available for you, and you can get in there and get to chat. So those are the ways you can do that. If you are a new caller, and we do encourage all new callers to call in, you can. You don't have to be afraid or intimidated. Just call in and make sure that you tell the call screener that you are a first-time caller, and we have something set up specially for you that you can get through. And an important announcement for those of you who have recently joined, Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. this Thursday, June the 16th at 8 a.m. Get your butt up. 8 a.m. until 10 a.m. Mr. Fuller will be on the Carl Nelson Show early in the morning. I guess when you get older, that's really not that early. But anyway, he'll be on early in the morning from 8 a.m. until 10 a.m. That's Eastern Daylight Savings Time. Yeah, that's when he'll be on. So you can do that on 95.5 on the FM, 1450 on the AM dial, if you choose to do that. But also we have it set up so that you can go to Produce Justice and get the Carl Nelson Show, Mr. Fuller on the Carl Nelson Show. They set that up. Thank you, Robert and Moon Pie, and, of course, the lovely Sharon. Thank you very, very much, for all that you do. Okay. Let's see. I think that's it on the announcements. Yeah. Okay. Let's go to Houston. And guess what, John? I'm going to keep you on the line. John, you are with Mr. Fuller. Greetings, Grand Rising, whatever you say. Good morning, sir.
Grand Rising, gentlemen, as you've asked me last week, Mr. Bobby, Houston, we have a problem. Uh-oh. And purportedly today is supposedly considered June 14th, National Flag Day, and presumably the date of birth of Donald John Trump. So if you can remember, Mr. Fuller, on why you believe the international flag you support is a question mark, could you enlighten us on that if you remember? But my VGQ, Mr. Bobby, is in the context of restitution versus reparations. Now, our great elder, Mr. Fuller, has made specific requests, and I agree with him 100%, on why it's important to have a will, to propose the understanding of a will, and to get generational wealth, which most people seem to ignore about our specific condition as a people who have been labeled black in this so-called experiment of America. There is the proposed issue of common law that we have to discuss another time, Mr. Bobby. But
yes,
under natural law, no person, whether you call yourself a human or an ethnic group or a label such as black or white, can own the land. So it's very interesting to me how squatters, or if you've never seen the very new and popular series Yellowstone, headed by Kevin Costner, that shared how white Caucasian or European settlers, foreign invaders, came here and stole such a thing. So if we're in my VGQ that I'm describing first, to bestow a will or to pass on generational wealth, which primarily is based on what we've been told is land ownership, or in our community's case, which is very rare, owning a home, which is a building, not the land under it. Can we consider moving forward, as my question after my VGQ, Mr. Bobby, as to how our elder generation, I'm particularly speaking to the boomers, do share to the Generation Z and future moving forward generation on what that means? First, generational wealth. Second, land ownership. And third, how a will can protect such interests from the system of white supremacy. And I'd like to hold to listen to the response, and thank you for the time this morning.
Okay. Mr. Fuller?
Well, I'm trying to figure out now the question. I think what was said was that there's a VGQ, a statement, and then the question. But as far as asking about why the main reason that black people should have a will is because someone that they're kin to, that each person is kin to, may leave something that has to be straightened out. One thing they're going to leave for sure, when the spirit, what we call the spirit, leaves the body, you're going to have a body there. Somebody has to handle all of that. And so sometimes a person, many people, die without saying anything about who's supposed to handle their body, and or if they left behind a house or some land, somebody has to handle it. Now, in the system of white supremacy, the white supremacist says, when it comes to black people, we'll handle it. And we definitely don't want anybody to be named who's black to handle anything. We don't want anybody to show up. So when they don't show up, we show up. And we'll say, well, nobody else is here. We got to do something. We got a dead body. We got 3 houses. We got a couple of cars. We got a whole bunch of furniture. We got some land maybe somewhere that they haven't been keeping the taxes up on it until just recently. When the person expired, the taxes were up to date. So the person expired but didn't leave behind any will to say who's supposed to keep the taxes up on it, because that land is going to be taxed. And so we'll just wait and see if anybody's going to pay the taxes, and if they don't, we'll grab it. I mean, yeah, that's what we do. And we hope that nobody has a will. All those black people never have a will. But, try to look forward to, well, I ain't planning on dying. Like a lot of black people say that. And then, they say that, we really are seriously, because we don't even want to think about it. I don't want to think about dying. I mean, I don't want to think about nobody that I care about dying. I don't want to think like that. I mean, that makes me feel bad. Well, the white supremacist said, just keep on feeling bad. Just don't sign nothing or don't get your name on any kind of will. Don't have anybody else sign anything. I'll handle it. Okay? So just as a convenience, even if it's not anything that you want from anybody who is dead or who has died, rather, the person, it makes it simpler if it's dumped in your lap and you don't even know anything about what's going on. And the white supremacists say, well, if you can't figure out what's going on, we will. And whatever is left behind, we will take it. I mean, if it's just some scrap lumber, we'll take that. Because we'll take us. We take everything. All right, we'll find a use for it. It might take us 15 minutes to get rid of it because it might not be enough to even spend more than 15 minutes on. But we'll take that because you black people are not supposed to have nothing. And if you cooperate with us and having nothing, that's exactly what we want. We don't want you to have anything because you really don't have it in the long run anyway. But if somebody leaves behind $10,000, we'll take it since nobody left it to you. So they automatically, if they didn't leave it to you, they left it to us one way or another. So we'll get it. So I'm just using that as a frame of reference.
Mm-hmm.
Take 15, 20 minutes. Go to someone who makes out a will. It'll take them just about that long.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're really good at it. And you can agree on the price for doing it. A couple of $100 or $50. Some people might do it just what you might call super cheap. You know, $50. Well, just give me $50. I mean, I do this all day, and I'm going to give you a break because you don't have much, and inflation and all this. And so I'll make you out a simple will. But make out something. If you have anything to leave anybody that's worth anything, just make out a will for their convenience because, first of all, you're leaving behind your body. For somebody, that's going to be a burden on someone. And the white supremacists said, well, it's not going to be a big burden on me because I ain't paying. So you can make some type of arrangements while you're here if you have anything to leave behind at all. That's all I was saying. Anything. A car or something like that. Otherwise, someone's going to have to take off from work and go and talk to somebody about, even if you haven't even been in touch with the person who died. And you haven't been in touch. You've forgotten it. They're a distant cousin or somebody. Mm-hmm. But they left your name was on some kind of will. So you have something to look into, even if it's nothing that you can get from it. The person might have a whole bunch of debt, but they can't will you their debts. Okay? So you don't have to worry about that. But if they happen to have something, you know, some land or something. I mean, if somebody once had, the land's been sold a long time ago, but the mineral rights had your name on it because somebody had that in the will, which means you don't have to do anything except say, hey, yeah, my name is on that will for the mineral rights. And from what I understand now, they are hitting oil all over that place, around that place where I am. And I'm right in the middle of it, according to what was left me. Say, well, your cousin Jessup, he left it. And say, well, you ever talk to cousin Jessup about it? I don't even know cousin Jessup, all right? But a will was left. That's why I'm saying it's important. Sometimes you can get a little bonus or something. Or sometimes all you have, like in the case with most black people, they can't will you their bills, but that's what most black people are left.
Yeah.
Leave behind a whole bunch of bills.
A whole bunch.
But if your name is on anything that they left, sometimes you get something.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
okay.
And you have something to work with.
All right.
Or somebody will get something. But everybody who has anything should have a will because it's not that complicated to get one.
No.
And most people will say that. Most people, you know, most white people tell other white people, get a will. And a lot of white people do. They do it. But black people can't be bothered for what. And the main reason, black people do tell the truth about that for the most part. I don't want to think about death. You know, my mama has a whole lot of property, but I don't want to think about her dying. So I ain't going to talk about no will.
Yeah.
Well, the white supremacist said, oh, boy, we love that. All that prime real estate near a beach, you know. And she owns all of the mineral rights up there where those oil wells are. This lady that died penniless, practically on welfare, but she owned the mineral rights that was passed on to her before her. But she didn't make out a will. Or nobody mentioned it to her, but she probably needs to have one. So she got about 8 grandchildren now who ain't going to get a dime of that $1 billion up there.
Okay. All righty. Well, John, there you go, and thank you for bringing that up. As a side note for the little that will pay attention to John's question and what Mr. Neely Fuller has just mentioned, Mr. Fuller always, particularly in his opening statement about knowing what white supremacy is and how it works, you can apply that, what it is and how it works, to a will. And you need to understand what a will is and how it works. And when you get into that, now this is a side note, you'll discover you really do need to know the difference between a will and a trust, a living trust and so forth. There are so many things that you don't know, and I say that because I just was in an estate planning information system, and it brought a whole new perspective to addressing John's question about that. So many of you will not do this, but if you can, try to get into an estate planning seminar or session to know the difference between a will and a trust. And trust me, there are all kinds of trusts in there, all kinds of things, so you need to educate yourself. All right. Thank you, John. L.A. Swan, you are on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead, please.
Greetings, Mr. Bobby. Greetings, Mr. Neely Fuller.
Greetings,
Mr. Bobby.
sir.
I'd like to stay on the line.
Okay.
Ms. Neely Fuller, is it correct for black females to attempt to be with other black females if the arrangements with black males keep not working out?
What's that question again?
Is it correct for black females to attempt to be with other black females from black males?
What do you mean? What do you mean by will?
Attempting to be together in a arrangement, like pretending to be a girlfriend type stuff.
Not according to the code. According to the compensatory counter-racist code, this is what the white supremacists want for black people. They want, if I understand your question, they intend for huge numbers, probably not all, but they have already shown they are on board with huge numbers of black females marrying each other, even if they marry their sister. White supremacists don't care. You marry your sister, if you're black, and you can't find a worthy black male, and that's a conclusion easy to come to. Marry your sister. I'll recognize it. Rubber stamp it. And one of you be the male and the other one be the female, because I'm going to put both of you in the army. You're going to die on some battlefront. You won't abandon each other. Because you're right there together. And I won't have to worry about you running off and going nowhere trying to catch up with some fella that you think might get away. Because, hey, you married your sister. She's right there in the same army with you. Right there in the same barracks. When you can have an arrangement, and with all the armies all over the world, like being in the French Foreign Legion, you're always together. So I can always rely on you to be where you need to be. I don't have to send some police to find you because you're trying to catch up with your boyfriend. Or in the case of, like, you've always had that male problem of going what they call AWOL, absent without leave. And why did he go with absent without leave? Trying to catch up with his girlfriend. So if we can even get enough black males to pair off with each other, ultimately we're going to need a whole bunch of soldiers to fight a whole bunch of people over here, over there, you know, little scattered skirmishes and whatnot. I mean, we got people who are opposing what we are doing all over the place, and a lot of our prime time, what they call alpha males, are perishing. And these little, what we call token wars here and there, and every 15 minutes you got another one coming up over here, and, you know, they're getting their legs blown off. And, hey, we got a big operation here. We need some extra bodies. So these bodies, I mean, there's plenty of black bodies around all over this planet. Put them together and mix them and match them any kind of way, and you'll have less problems out of them because they are highly sexualized, a lot of these black people. So if we can control their sexual inclinations, we can control everything about them. See, we know that about sex. You control a person's sexual inclinations, you get complete control of it, steer it where you want to go, and you got control of everything, all the other areas of activity. Get control of that eighth area of a black person's sexuality. That's what it comes down to. That's what the white supremacists are doing now all over the world. Get control of every black person's sexuality and steer it right where you want it to go so it will serve what? The system of white supremacy. Now, we can't tell them that's what we're doing, naturally, because we don't ever tell them, you know, that white supremacy exists, except over yonder somewhere. It's out there somewhere. Somebody's a white supremacist, but it ain't me, you know. But I'm going to do you a favor. Mm-hmm. I'm going to improve your sexuality, because you black people don't know what to do with your sexuality. But I'm going to improve it. So I'm going to give you some new categories. You black people love stuff that's new. So I'm not going to just be satisfied with just what you call the old-fashioned and a handful of black people who, you know, are kind of confused about what they want to be sexually or what they were born, what they need to have an operation on to catch up with the sexuality that they were supposed to have. But we'll straighten it out for you, because we straighten out everything with you Negroes anyway, because you ain't got no sense about nothing. Not only about sex, you ain't got no sense about nothing unless we put it there. But for our convenience, we got to do something about your sexuality, because this thing about this male with female with you black people, that ain't going to work for us. That is definitely not going to work for the system of white supremacy. Mm-hmm. So we got to scatter your sexuality all over the place. Mm-hmm. So it's completely unrecognizable.
Yes, sir.
So in answer to the question, and I've answered that question many a time, I think. But yes, it's called racist sexual confusion. They are confusing black people not only in sexuality, which is the most powerful way to confuse people, but in all the areas of activity, economics, education. You black people say you want more education. Okay, I give it to you, but it's got to be according to my rules. I don't want to hear no more about that CRT stuff. Don't bring that around me, or you ain't going to get. You're going to get an education, all right, but it ain't going to be nothing that you like, all right? See, so they are confusing black people. Why? More than they ever have. Why? Because if you can keep people confused in all areas of activity, and particularly in sex, you can confuse them in everything, and you can dominate them in everything. That's the main thing.
Yes, sir.
It's not confusing them just to have a whole bunch of confused people.
Mm-hmm.
You can steer them around, just like you got a dog on a leash. See? Yeah.
Thank you for your question. Mr. Fuller, continuing his question, what was the statement that you made about the white man's anus that you've mentioned on several programs, but for those who are new to the program, and since Swall introduced this particular question, this racist sexual confusion, what is that statement that you made about the white man's anus?
The white man's anus is the new black vagina. Think about it. Black vaginas are becoming more and more obsolete, even as I speak, by the minute. That black female who's looking down at her vagina, the white supremacists are saying, that's obsolete. You ain't supposed to have no vagina. Pour some cement in there and seal that up. And then you won't have no babies that we got to take care of, because that's who's going to take care of them, because we're taking care of you. What do you know? And you definitely ain't got no black male to look out for you, because you got to look out for him. You give birth to him, and then you got you a, when you give birth from a black male who is supposed to be a father of your child, you really got two children in the system of white supremacy. You, black lady, that creature that you call your husband ain't qualified to be nobody's husband, because we have seen to that. He ain't going to ever qualify in the system of white supremacy, because he is dependent on me, us white supremacists, just like you are. So we'll seal up your vagina, make it obsolete. And so if we allow you to have one, you'll just have it there. It's just an ornament, like a lamp or a clock. Well, it won't be doing nothing, because the black male will be chasing behind a white male, saying that white male's anus is much more important than any black female's vagina. That's where they're turned it into. In order to do what? Confuse. See, they don't care how they do it, just as long as it's confusion, and dress it up and pay big money for anybody who's on board with it. Now, any black person out here who just wants to stick with this male-female thing, you're going to be out there on your own looking silly, because in a few years, hey, if you ain't into racial scatterization and letting us do this sexual sabotage on all you black people, you ain't up with the times.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Thank you so much. Want to get to that. New caller alert. Let's get him in here. Wait a minute, see if I can get this thing down here correctly. New caller alert from Santa Cruz. We have Charles. Charles, you're on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Good morning, Mr. Fuller. Good morning, Mr. Bobby.
Good morning,
I'm
sir.
very honored to be speaking with you, Mr. Fuller. I've listened to a lot of your speeches, and I've taken a lot in. I've, of course, bought your book, and I want to say a couple things. I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to say, in my personal opinion, I think that you have solved the racism problem with your code, and the only thing that's missing is for all of us to pick it up and to use it. And I think if everyone started doing that, the problem would just disappear. So I feel like you have done your job, and everything you say comes true. I look around me and I see everything that you have told me. You have completely red-pilled me, meaning you have opened my eyes and let me see behind the curtain, which is going on, what is everything is going on around me. And it's emotional for me, but I really appreciate it. I wish I could shake your hand and speak to you every day, Mr. Fuller. And I just wanted to tell you thank you, and I appreciate your work, and I'm listening. I have my children listening, and I also test myself when people ask questions. I try and answer the question, and my kids laugh at me, but I try and answer the question, and then I wait for your answer to see if I'm on point and see if I'm correct. And a lot of times I am, so I'm pretty happy that I am understanding your message. And so I just wanted to call in and say thank you again, sir, for all of your work, and I really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much, Charles. And as our custom is, or my custom is, don't be a stranger. Thank you for your call. Mr. Fuller, I'll tell you what, we got about 4 minutes. I got to get this in here. Let's spend the remaining time talking about your book. Listen to this, Charles, your book, Mr. Fuller.
Most of the things that I'm saying are in the volumes. The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. The book has 3 titles, really. The Compensatory Counter-Racist Code, that's the next one. And then the one that's most explicit. A textbook, workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of racism. And in parentheses, I have white supremacy. Racism is white supremacy. White supremacy is racism. There's no other form of racism on planet Earth other than the system of white supremacy in capital letters. No other form. And the book, taken off from there, the book being a textbook workbook for the victims of white supremacy, meaning the non-white people of the entire planet. Black, brown, red, yellow, anybody classified as non-white, according to the Compensatory Counter-Racist Code, what I have written, is a victim of white supremacy. And so the book is designed to help a victim of white supremacy to eliminate in everything that they say and do, small things, big things, all things, eliminate the system of white supremacy, and not just do that, because there's no point in eliminating the system of white supremacy, and you're going to have another system that's just as destructive as it is. That wouldn't make sense. That's not logical. So everything in the book is supposed to be based on logic. Logic is how you solve problems. Racism is a problem. So you want to replace it, since people are using this word replace it a lot. But you don't replace it with non-white supremacy. You replace it with a better product than the system of white supremacy. You replace it with a product that's much better, the product that everybody should want, and that is justice, which means guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. Now, the textbook for victims of white supremacy is supposed to help the individual person who is classified as non-white bring that about. Not just talk about it. It shows you how to talk and what to say when you do talk and what not to say. But as an individual, each and every day, you contribute your part to the process of replacing the system of white supremacy with the system of justice, and in the process also solve your own individual problems.
Okay.
And so you go to producejustice.com in order to bring that about. Go to producejustice.com and get the textbook.
All righty. Well, that concludes the first hour of the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller. So for those of you that have to say goodbye, we'll say goodbye, but tune in next week. But for those of you who are going to stay online, stay there. Stick and stay. Don't go away. We are going to be back in about 10 seconds with the second hour of the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. All righty. Welcome back to the second hour of the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., who is on the line live from Washington, D.C. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby. The contact number for today's show is 516-453-9921. When you call that number, make sure that you press the number 1 button, and we'll try to work you in here because we have many callers online, so we'll try to get you in here. You make sure you give your name to the call screener so I can properly give you an introduction without screwing it up. You can also Gmail me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY at gmail.com. Not sure that I will get it read today, but I will give you a message that says I got it, or got it rather, and that lets you know that it will be in rotation, and I will do it whenever we get the opportunity to read the Gmails. And you can also join the chat room by going to blogtalkradio.com. Then you want to get into the shows where it says the Produced Justice, or programs of the Produced Justice show is what you want to get. Then you get in that and you click on that, and then you get into the chat room, and then you're there. You can join the chat. You can join the chat and see what's up. It looks like there's a fishing expedition going in there, but guess what, baby? Don't take the bait. Come on. You're smarter than that. Stay on code. Stay on code. Stay on code. You'll be glad you did. Okay, by the way, new callers. If you are a new caller and you call that number, which is 516-453-9921, tell the call screener that, and we have a special program set up for you. Word of note, you want more Fuller? You're going to get him. Yes, you are. You're going to get him on June the 16th, 2022. Mr. Fuller will be on the Carl Nelson Show. That's right. Mr. Fuller will be on the Carl Nelson Show this coming Thursday, the 16th of June. Now, here's the time, 8 a.m. until 10 a.m. Catch that worm, okay? Mr. Fuller will be on, and you'll be glad that you did that. By the way, if you can't get it on the terrestrial radio stations, which is WOL, 95.5 FM, or 1450 on your AM dot. If you can't get it there, guess what? Robert and Moon Pie and Miss Sharon have all set up for us. You can go to ProduceJustice.com, and we have it on here, Mr. Fuller on the Carl Nelson Show, so you can get it there. You see there, somebody was thinking about you. Yeah, or you. Somebody think about you. All righty. Very, very good. Okay, let's get back to the program. Mr. Fuller, you might be pleased to hear this, or you might just take it the way that you normally do. Anyway, Justice Warrior, thank you for your comment. Says, Mr. Fuller, your lingo, terminology, phrases have now entered the lexicon. Just the other night on the CBS Evening News edition with Jerica Duncan referred to the group of white supremacist males who were rounded up as, quote, suspected white supremacists, end of quote. That is not by happenstance, Mr. Fuller, because we as your students have popularized the term you created. Just thought I'd pass that along to you. Way to go, Justice Warrior. Well, Mr. Fuller, you're in the lexicon now. Not that you care, but you're there. All righty. Let's see here. Oh yeah, I'm going the wrong way here. Got to get it up in here. If I can do this, boy, I take computer technology is good, but sometimes, and it's me. Okay, let me see here. We had Swallow on. Okay, here we go. We're going to go into Ray in Dallas. Hey, Ray, you're on with Mr. Fuller. What's your question?
Mr. Fuller, does your compensatory logic lead you to suspect that the white supremacists will peacefully stop the practice of white supremacy?
If what now?
Yes. Does your compensatory logic lead you supremacists will peacefully stop the practice of white supremacy?
I don't know. I just know what the victims should be doing. I don't know how the white supremacists will ultimately react to counter-racism or the science of counter-racism if it's employed to the fullest. That they are actually in danger of going out of business as racists and are people who are being forced to practice justice. I don't know what they're going to do when they have to make the ultimate decision that we're going to have to kill all these black people or we're going to have to do justice, because that's the way it will ultimately go. We'll either do justice, since that's what they are trying to produce, okay, but they can't produce that unless they get rid of the system of white supremacy, and we ain't doing that. So that means that every white person who believes in and practices white supremacy will be forced to make the decision. Do we kill all these people or do we do justice? Because, we don't have is anybody offering another choice? Do we go out of business as white supremacists, which means we got to replace it with something, and that, logically speaking, everybody says, well, the only logical thing to replace it with is the system of justice, which means guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. And that doesn't happen in the system of white supremacy because it's not supposed to happen. The system of white supremacy is supposed to be about dominating and mistreating people in their skin. That's our whole program. We don't have another program. We get rid of that program. The only logical program we have to have is the system of justice. Now, we have to make a decision at some point because more and more black people are beginning to, for the first time in recorded history, understanding a little bit about what we do and how we do it. They're just beginning to catch on a little bit to what we do and how we do it. And they have a definition of justice that's never been achieved by anybody. So now everybody's on the spot for that. So what do we do? What are our options? So logically speaking, the white supremacist options are kill all these black people before this whole concept of justice becomes so powerful that we can no longer keep practicing white supremacy. It's just eliminate them all. Or throw in the towel and say, okay, enough already. Get rid of racism and have a just world. Now, the victims of white supremacy have a job, and I'm included in that job. That's why I'm trying to do it. I'm trying to force, logically speaking, since that's the only way that we can go, the white people of this planet to make that decision. Kill all the black people or do justice. Take your pick, because we ain't got no defense. If they decide to kill us now, we're dead. Ain't no way we can defend ourselves against the white people of this planet deciding, you know what, I've had enough of these people. I'm going to kill them all, and I'm going to announce it next week. You all are all on the death list. I'm tired of talking to you. So I'm going to get rid of you, and it ain't going to be nothing but white people on this planet, starting with next year. Now, try to find another planet to hide on, because I ain't helping you do nothing either. All right?
Yes, sir.
But you know what? I'm saying this to the entire world. If they make that decision, because that's what we're trying to force them to make, make up your mind whether or not you want them to make that decision, because I've gotten mine made up. Of course, but people would naturally say, yeah, fella, you can make that decision because you're old. You ain't going to be here very long no way. So if they kill you, it ain't no big deal, okay? But, hey, I'm just 20 years old. I don't want them to make that decision. But I'm saying that's the decision I was trying to get them to make, at least by the time I got to be 30. And I said so. The first speech I made was at the University of Maryland, and I said it then. And it was mostly to a white audience. I said it was right after what we call the Martin Luther King riots. Martin Luther King had been assassinated in 1968. And I said to that University of Maryland audience that was about 90% white, I said, if you just think that we are in the way now and you're tired of playing little games with us, and just black people take up too much space, use up all the natural resources, and don't know how to do nothing without a white person holding them by the hand, why not just kill us all? I say, now, if you're going to make that decision, why not make it now? And we'll just do the best we can to defend ourselves, but, you know by how long that will last. And in a few years, you'll have the whole planet to yourself, and you can explain it to the Creator.
Yes, sir.
Explain what you did to the Creator, because there won't be nobody else here to argue with you about it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have us to be bothered with. But we are going to try to make you, at least I am, and I said this at the University of Maryland, have to make that decision.
Yes, sir.
So it's best to go ahead, 1968, do it now. If you're going to make that decision, you might as well kill us all now while you've got the muscle, as they say in the mafiosa. Like they say, the Corleones, when they made their decision. Hey, it's going to be, hey, either this or that. There ain't no in between.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Let's see here. Let me do this quickly, A and B. Okay. Particularly for the chatters. Hey, stay on code. And you know exactly what that means. Stay on code. Let those who want to be off code, that's okay. Let them be off code. But stay on code. And to the new person that called in, Charles, I'm going to have Mr. Fuller say it in his own words. And also for the other person that said something about Mr. Fuller and the race problem. Mr. Fuller, I'm going to ask you, I already know the answer, but I'm going to ask you so that Charles and the rest of the world and that other person could know. Have you solved the race problem?
Have I solved the race problem?
Yes, sir.
No.
Thank you.
No one has solved the race problem. That's why I'm saying everybody's voice should be heard. Mm-hmm. I mean, including all the white people. I mean, the people who are called Proud Boys and all like that. Have them come to the mic. I've been in situations where there were white people, who sat there and listened to me. They could have disagreed, and I wouldn't have say, shut up, you white, you ain't got no voice in this. This is black people's business. No.
Exactly.
Let everybody step forward to the microphone and announce what their solution is, and then see if they'll do it.
Yeah. Simple.
All right? Yeah. No. This is business. It ain't personal. All right?
Chatters, stay on code. Stay on code. Toussaint, here we go, baby. Flatbush, Atlantic Avenue, Brooklyn. Come on, man. You in the house. Talk to me.
What you know about that, brother? Come on now.
Man, been there on Crown Street where my aunt lives.
Okay. Oh, that's what's up, Mr. Bobby. Good morning, Mr. Bobby. Good morning, Mr. Fuller.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. In terms of, yes, sir. Good morning, Mr. Fuller. In regards to this area of activity, we've defined as sex, or you've defined as sex, right? For the past 2 to 3 days, I've been on an app called Clubhouse. And on this app, you have conversations with different people. The conversations I've been having have been with other victims of white supremacy, racism, specifically black females. And some, not all, but many, it's starting to become my observation that in this level of refinement, in this era of refinement of the system of white supremacy, the next step is to breed contempt within black women towards black men. And so I say all that to say, I preface this with the fact that I was having multiple conversations with black women who identify themselves as something called divestors. That is I'm not sure if you're familiar with the term, Mr. Fuller, but that is a term that black women are using in regards to leaving the black male, because the black male, according to their rhetoric, is subject to white supremacy, is incapable of fighting back, is a perpetual victim of war, prisoner of war. And so that being said, there are many black women within this community who are advocating for the abortion of black male babies specifically. Now, Mr. Fuller, do you feel that there is anything constructive in regards to black women saying that they should no longer procreate because any child that they have will be a prisoner of war?
I had that, but that's just as a suggestion, but I also suggest a contradiction, and that is that they have babies and then take these babies to the white supremacists, racist man and racist woman, and say, I'm your child, and so these are just your grandchildren. That's all. Because prisoners of war don't have anything, and black people of this planet have nothing. There's not a black person on this planet can point to anything and say, I own that, and be telling the truth. Now, listen to that statement now. I'm making this statement to the whole world. It's not a black person on planet Earth in the year 2022 that can point to anything and say, this is something that I own exclusively. It's mine. And be, at the same time, telling the truth. Because that will not be the truth. If you're a prisoner of the system of white supremacy, and every black person is, directly and indirectly, you don't own anything. And what you call your child is not yours. Every black child by every black female belongs to the same corporation or people that she belongs to. And what is the name of that corporation? The system of white supremacy and or racism. I belong to it, Neely Fuller. I don't own anything. Ain't no such thing as my car, my this, my that. I can forget that M-Y or M-I-N-E. Or really M-I-N-D in the system of white supremacy. My mind is not even mine. My mind, M-I-N-D, has been mine, undermined by the system of white supremacy. So they are to blame, even with my counter-racist ideology and the compensatory code. When the white supremacists say, are you the author of the code? I say, I'm the reporter of it. The author of the code is the system of white supremacy, because there would be no counter-racist code if it wasn't for the system of white supremacy. The seeds of the destruction of the system of white supremacy is built right into it itself. But getting back to the point about black babies belong to white people. Those white, not just any white people, the white people who believe in white supremacy. And they determine whether the babies are going to be aborted in the womb or whether they're going to be aborted after they come out of the womb. The white supremacists determine this. because they determine all of our circumstances. They know how many black people are going to die in any given year. Why? Because they know the environments that they have produced that will kill off a certain number of black people by disease, by the poison water. It'll be an approximate, but it'll be close enough, by gunfire. They already know that. Why? Because they planned it, that's why. You're talking about superpower. The only power that comes second to what? The Creator itself when it comes to black people. And that's the white people who believe in white supremacy. You got the Creator of the universe, number one. Now, no, the white supremacists are not more powerful than that. But when you talk about number two, there's nothing in the universe, no people, no creatures, no crocodiles, no nothing, more powerful than the white supremacists next to the power of the Creator itself. And that is either true or false. Can you name number two without saying the white supremacists and be telling the truth? No. In answer to that question, the white supremacists are number two when it comes to the power that executes the behavior of people on planet Earth. The Creator first, the white supremacists second. And the white supremacists are just as rotten as they can be.
All righty. Deshaun, thank you. Thank you. Stay out of Bed-Stuy, too, by the way. Let's see here. Mr. Fuller, I don't know this person's name. Anyway, this person here has said something about Kyle Rittenhouse lawsuit is messing with my mind. The boy is suing for defamation. After the Buffalo shooting, he was labeled a white supremacist by various media networks. Since he was not sentenced for the shooting charge, he reckons he was defamed. Guess the law is fair. I bring it up because I want to emphasize the word fair about something you said last week about the word fair, which I looked it up and researched it. And I found out that that the definition that you gave was correct. But for those of you that did not hear that, Mr. Fuller, could you explain the word fair in this so-called system that we have here?
Well, there's a lot. I should have quite a bit said of quite a bit. I'm not looking at it now. I do have the book in front of me, but I don't have that page number.
Okay.
In the word guide, but the word fair, just look how the word fair has been used. I think Kahari Inaharo out of Columbus, Ohio, and he has a radio program called Straight Talk, but he also has a book called The Race Code Wars. And he gives reference to my works, but it's called Race Code War and how words are used, and he mentions it. But black people have to pay more and more attention to how every word is used, and fair is one of them. And so just think of Lady Fair, or someone would say, oh, she's fair complexion. Now, they'll take that word fair, F-A-I-R, and also say, treat me fairly, meaning directly, indirectly, they are requesting that you do justice. When they get through talking, I mean, that's what it'll come down to. So they associate the word fair with the word justice. And the word fair is connected now with the word justice in the system of white supremacy. And then the word fair is also associated with the word what? White. Fair complexion. Oh, she looks like a white person, or she is white. My fair lady. And then take that F-A-I-R and associate it, treat me fairly, treat me with justice. So they're saying white, justice, and fair are all the same thing. And your mind will automatically lead you to think that if you're white, you are just. You're a person who practices justice. Why? Because you have fair skin. You don't have that dark skin, that evil skin. Oh, I mean, the future looks dark. Well, that ain't fair. It certainly ain't. The way the white supremacists use language. That's why I have a word guide as a part of the compensatory code. The compensatory code itself is how to use words.
Yes, sir.
And
yes,
so,
sir.
Oh yes, they took that word fair, and they not only have a whole and everything associated with darkness. You hear it all on TV every day. Black people haven't caught on to that yet. Now we know about black, but black is associated with dark. How can we separate the two? But the white supremacists would get right on 6 o'clock news and say, we're facing some dark times. Have anybody ever photographed a time and told you what color time is? Dark times. What color is time? Is anybody out there, some super brain, tell the whole world audience, because I just asked that question. All questions have answers. What's the color of time? Well, you got light times and you got dark times. That ain't the question. What color is time? Is it black? Is it green? Is it white? That's a question. 3 of them in a row.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Now, for those of you, this is important. For those of you who want a real good explanation, get the book. In particular, Mr. Fuller mentioned the code book, but get the word guide, because the word fair is in the word guide on page 116 at the top of the page, and then the reason right underneath that for an explanation on that. Yes, we have to understand that we are in the system. It's the system. And speaking about the system tells me I have to take a break. You are listening to the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby. Now, to get in contact with the show here, all you have to do is call 516-453-9921. Again, 516-453-9921. And if you are a new caller, let the call screener know that you're a new caller, and we have something very special for you. You will be heard. Oh, yeah, you'll be heard. So do that. You can also contact me by my Gmail. That is the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY @gmail.com. You can do that. Now, I can't say it will be read today, but you'll be on the list, and I will let you know, because I will indicate to you that I got it. I will text you back. And you can also join the chat room. All you have to do is go to blogtalkradio.com, and then you want to, it has programs up there. You want the Produce Justice program, and then you click on that bad boy, and then the chat room becomes available for you if you push the button to get into the chat. Get your boots on if you get in there, because I ain't playing in there. Go into the chat room. You're going to hear all kinds of stuff. Yeah, anybody and all can get into the chat room. And the chatters know, most of them, the majority of them, stay on code. Those that don't, they will identify themselves, and you already know who they are, so it doesn't matter. No contact. Thank you, Rita. No conflict, no contact. Let them be in there and let them do whatever they're going to do. It don't make no difference. It's all part of it. Anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you. Yeah, we ain't even going to give you no audience on that one. It don't matter. I got the mic. George, New York. Boy, New York, you are really representing the day. George, you are on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Bobby. Good morning, Mr. Fuller.
Good morning, George.
Good morning.
I have a couple questions if time allows, but I'll get straight to it.
It will not allow today, but you can do one question, though. Make it your best one.
Sure thing. Yes, Mr. Fuller, I believe one of your most popular saying is the black female vagina is to become obsolete, according to the white supremacist plan. And when I first heard it, I refused to believe it, but I thought it was far-fetched. But the more I analyze things, the more I see that it's becoming a reality. Now, I see the black female being elevated in society, which is seen as a good thing by many. But I feel like the more the white supremacists elevate the black female, the more they depart from their femininity, the more disdain that they have for the black male. There's new movements going on, such as divesting, where the black female seeks to divest from her blackness, the black community, and seek to pair herself with the man in society, the white male. My question to you is, for the black males who seek to be with a black female and who are seeking to eliminate the system of white supremacy, the black males who seek to be constructive, what are we to do to reclaim our women, to stop this plan of obsolescence? And if the black male who seeks to eliminate white supremacy is not successful, is it constructive for them to pair themselves with other non-white females?
Okay, George, Mr. Fuller.
Well, I got to take one question at a time. I'm sorry about that. I'm trained to do that. So you never move to the second question without answering the first question. Otherwise, you have confusion. That's just the law of the universe.
Yes.
So
my first question
what was that first question?
My first question was, for the black males who are seeking to eliminate the system of white supremacy, who are constructive, what are they to do to reclaim their women? How are they supposed to?
You got to get rid of the system of white supremacy. We lost that. I mean, we wasn't in no long process of losing that. When we lost ourselves, the white supremacists took us over and say, you, with your dark-skinned self, are now subordinate to me. When the white supremacists, racist man and racist woman, collectively told black males of this planet that, and then proceeded to prove it, that we are subject to them, us black males are subject to the white supremacists, we automatically lost everything. So we haven't been in charge of no black female at all. And the white supremacists prove that every day right now here in 2022. Because when they walk in and track mud all over your living room and say, Daddy's here now, real daddy. Now, you with your black male self, you call yourself daddy in this house when I'm not around. But when I walk in what you call your house, which is really not your house, this house belongs to me because the whole planet belongs to me, Negro. Wake up and smell the coffee. Now, when I say that, I mean that woman that you say is yours, that female, that black female back there, she's not yours. She's mine. And you know why she's mine? Because you are mine. And your offspring are mine. And everything you ever thought about having is mine. Now, Blackie, do you understand what I just said to you? And we stop and think about it, he's not lying. That's what white supremacy is. See, black people got to understand white supremacy, and a whole lot of our questions are answered instantly. The minute you understand what white supremacy is and how it works.
And how it works, absolutely. What's your second part of your question, George?
Just about everything falls right in place. I mean, just everything tumbles right in place. You understand more than you ever did about the world that you're in than you ever will.
Okay. All right, George, I'm going to let you slide on this one, George. Your second part question quickly.
Thank you. Yes. So now for the black males who are the most constructive and in countering white supremacy, is it logical now, since this plan is specific to black females, is it constructive for black males or the black males who want to seek partnerships with other non-white females?
No. According to the code, absolutely not. Because you do understand what's going on. You're still under the system of white supremacy. So you owe it to the black female. She gives birth to us. We wouldn't even be here. And she's doing the best she can with what the white supremacist allows her to do. And she's angry with us all the time because we are not men. We are boys because we are male. And the white supremacists are telling the black male now you'll never be a man in the system of white supremacy. That's out. Manhood, there's no such thing as a black man. That's why back in the 1960s, you had to walk around with signs trying to announce, I am a man. You don't see no white man walking around with no sign saying, I'm a man. He might say, I want higher wages or something like that, but he ain't got to announce that he's a man. You got to announce it with a sign because you don't believe it yourself, because it ain't true. And the truth is, according to the code, you cannot be a man and be subject to white supremacy. It doesn't work. That's impossible. So, therefore, any way that the black female acts toward the black male, and I want this fully understood, any crazy stuff that she does, and she does a lot that's crazy, just like we do, we should not blame her. Blame racist man and racist woman. The white supremacist man and the white supremacist woman. For all of our behaviors. That's code.
That's code.
Why? Because we are their illegitimate children. Every last one of us. We, black males, black females, black what we call children, because we're all children in the system of white supremacy. When the white supremacists, when they say that we are boys and gals or girls, they're telling the truth. Hey, boy. I ain't no boy. I'm way over 21. What did I call you? I call you boy, right? And you know why you're a boy? Because I call you that. You are what I say you are. And if you don't like it, go to the front office and pick up your paycheck. Now I'm proving that you are what I said you are. Because a man would say, I ain't going nowhere. And I'm going to put a whooping on you, and ain't nobody able to stop me.
Okay.
Now, every black male got to answer to the white supremacists for every move we make, including permission to hold a white woman's hand or a black female's hand. A black male, every last one of us on this planet, got to get permission from the white supremacists to do that. Just hold a female's hand or hold anybody's hand or shake hands. You're going to get permission from the white supremacists directly and indirectly. Why? we are all prisoners of war. Now, I'm either lying or I'm telling the truth.
Yes, sir. All right, George, thank you. You got a break today. Hey, Robert, contact me. All right, let's go to Tennessee. Terrence, my man. Tennessee's in the house. Go ahead.
Hey, good morning. Y'all got my head spinning today. Y'all own one today. And I appreciate you, Mr. Fuller and Mr. Bobby.
Yes, sir.
Last week I was talking about, I made a comparison about dealing with autism and how a lot of things that I think the supremacists have given us have dumbed us down and made us mentally disabled. But what I wanted to say is I found this out, and I'm aware of this, and I think it'll be constructive. Right there in Columbus, there's an organization founded by a young lady named Montoya Rogers, and it's for minority autistic children, and it's called Puzzle Mom, and it's at www.puzzlemom.org, and I think what she's doing will be considered constructive. What I wanted to ask Mr. Fuller is, have you been familiar with the documentary on PBS called Neutral Ground, which is award-winning, and it's a guy named C.J. Hunt, and he's gone back to New Orleans and talking about the monuments and where they're going to go, and like the, I guess, Confederate monuments, and have they been, like when they were trying to remove them, and the backlash about, as we removed some monuments, they went back and made laws that make it, it filed injunctions and made it impossible, and created other laws that make it a crime to teach CRT in schools, and you cannot say anything that makes anybody feel bad or shamed, and you can only teach that racism is personal bias. It's not systematic, as we've learned that it is. So it's against the law in 12 states, and I believe including here in Tennessee, to teach that in schools. And so were you aware of a program called Neutral Ground, Mr. Fuller?
No, I'm not aware of it, but I'm not surprised. See, I have been teaching about talking about it. I always say I don't teach the code. I don't know enough to teach code or teach about racism, for that matter. I just talk and give opinions about what I have based on what I've seen and heard. That's all I do. There's nothing unique about Neely Fuller, except I pay attention to details. And I ask a whole lot more questions than the average person thinks about asking. That's the only thing that I do that I would say is a little bit different. And the main thing, I just keep asking questions. Why? Because I have found out if you keep asking questions and people keep trying to answer, the truth is going to come out. Yeah, I mean, the truth just has a way of doing that. And it doesn't make no difference who's asking the question. Mm-hmm. That's just a part of the universe. Okay? So, in answer to that, I don't, I'm not familiar with it, but I'm not surprised, because that's something that the white supremacists do not want the black people to figure out how white supremacy works. So that black people will be looking right at it. There's a reason for that. They want you to look at something and not see it, but you're looking right at it, but you don't see it. Okay? That is the most magnificent trick that the white supremacists have ever pulled. To have a black person looking right at what they are doing, and you got no idea of what they're doing or how they are doing it.
All righty. Thank you, Terrence, because I do know Torrance, but thank you, Terrence, for your call. Listen, Mr. Fuller, we have permission to go over because we have so many callers. We're gonna get them. Those that are on the line, hang on. Nobody else call in because we're under restriction here. But we have permission, Mr. Fuller, and I hope you agree to answer all the calls that are on the line. I think we got about a 10-minute window. So is that okay with you, Mr. Fuller?
Well, if it's okay if this is how everything runs. I mean,
okay. Well, this is how it's going to run today. Okay, but I just want to make sure that it was okay with you because I called and permission was granted. Okay, we're gonna get them all in now. Since we got this, please don't just ask your question. Let Mr. Fuller answer. And here we go. Leona, you're on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Bobby, and good morning, Mr. Fuller, sir.
Good morning.
I have a question, Mr. Fuller, from the Compensatory Counter-Racist Codified Word Guide on page 88. The word is deed, D-E-E-D. That's David, Edward, David. Now, on page 88 in the Word Guide, you say, for deed, you say, use this word to mean, quote, the absence of time, end of quote. Now, my question is, can you break that down a little bit more? What do you mean with the absence of time?
Well, I forgot what I put as the definition of time, but I think I incorporated the definition of deed into the definition of time. So if you can turn to, I don't have my book right there in front of me with my glasses.
Turn it right now.
Either.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But if you look at the definition of time, I think it corresponds with the definition of deed.
Okay.
Deed is the absence of time. But what does it say the definition of time is? Yeah.
It says...
Go ahead.
Wait a minute. It says time. It says the absence of deed.
Yes. Now, what's one of the titles of the book? Thought, speech, action. That's something to think about. See, because what is time? I thought about that. I mean, what is really time? What is time? Is there a definition for time? Can you really define time? And the only thing I came up with, well, time is deed. In other words, you're doing something. So when you're doing something or when something is being done, that is time. Because if nothing is being done, how can you call it time? So time is deed, or maybe it's the opposite. Time is the absence of deed, because that's what makes it time. You're not doing anything. So we call it time standing still. But does time, that raises another question. Does time stand still? Either does or it doesn't. Now, what do you mean by standing still? Now, you might say, why did Fuller put this in this book in the first place? It's to make you think. It's to make Fuller think. That's why he gave what you might call abstract definitions for both words. Time is what? The absence of deed. Or you might say the presence of deed. They're one and the same. When you're doing something, that is time. When you're not doing anything, that is time. But it's the absence and presence at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But what is time? That's the absence and presence of. So, the conclusion I ultimately came to is the inventor of time is the only person that knows the answer to the question, what is time?
Mm-hmm.
That's the only force. Whatever invented time is the only force, whatever that is, that can give an accurate definition.
All right.
That's why people been trying to figure out. We do what you call measure time, but are we actually measuring time, or is time measuring us? Or maybe it's both.
Both, yeah.
But in order to know, you have to know what time is. And maybe in order to know that, you have to be the creator of time. That's the conclusion I came to.
Leona,
thank you, Mr. Fuller.
Thank you, Leona, so much. Thank you for your call. All righty. Busted! They got him. They got you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Constructive Action Items. Woo! Have mercy. RT, got you, man. K-Crew and Marcus and Nicole, stay put because we got you. No more. We got you. Go ahead.
Dr. Fuller, when I see black men who are dating or married to other men, or black females who are dating or married to other women, here's the question. Does the white supremacists control all the sexual desires of black people directly or indirectly in this country?
Okay, I'll start with the last 3 words. In this country. The white supremacists are the country. I'd like to take care of that first. That's real important in order to understand white supremacy. The white supremacists make borders, all right? They don't recognize borders. Borders are not for them. So there's no such thing as in this country. Always leave that out when you're talking about white supremacy. The white supremacists invent borders for black people. Black people have borders. That's why they tell all dark-skinned people, don't come across this border. Don't come across that border. But they don't have borders. They meaning the white supremacists. I would just like to take care of that because I don't remember recently having made that clear. Because we keep saying in this country, in that country, when we're talking about racism. To the racists, there's no such thing as a country. They are the country. They are every country. They go where they please. Black people go where the white supremacists allow them to go. The black people cannot go nowhere without getting the permission, directly and indirectly, from the white supremacists. The white supremacists go where they please. All dark-skinned people go where they are sent or allowed to go. By whom? By racist man and racist woman, the white supremacists. So that takes care of that border thing. Now, I knew this was going to happen. But I thought it was important to say. Now, having said that last part about borders, I forgot what the first part of the question was. So can you give it to me again?
Wait a minute. Let me get it. Okay. RT, what was the first part of your question?
Yeah, the first part of the question was when I see black men who date or are married to other men, and I see black women who are dating or married to other women, do the white supremacists control all the sexual desires of black people?
Now they do. They tell us what sex is, and they tell us what it ain't. I mean, we haven't had any other teachers other than them. They are our illegitimate parents. They killed off our original parents, whomever they were, thousands of years ago or hundreds of years ago or whenever it was. I don't know. It's highly controversial, they say, about when white supremacists started. But what they did a lot of killing. Because they walked in on people and they say, now, I don't care how you've been doing stuff. All you dark-skinned people are going to be introduced to something new. It's called white supremacy. You've been building this and building that, and you call yourselves having this kind of civilization and whatnot. You ain't never seen nothing like what we're going to put on you. And they proved it. They didn't lie about that. What they put on us in all 9 areas of activity is a thing called the system of white supremacy that controls everything that black people think, say, and do more than anybody in all areas of activity. on planet Earth in the year 2022. And those areas of activity, in answer to your question, include economics, everything in economics that pertains to black people. The white supremacists control it. Education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. So in answer specifically to the question, the eighth area of activity, sex, yes, the white supremacists control what we think. What a male is, what a female is, what neither one of them is when they say that it is, what black people are going to do and what they're not going to do when it comes to the eighth area of activity, sex, just like they do in economics. They control what black people are going to do. They control what we want to buy, what we look forward to, what is a vacation and what ain't. They control all of that. But we're strutting around thinking that we decide this. We don't decide nothing. But for the first time, when you start thinking about countering racism, for the first time, the white supremacists are introduced to something that's a real danger.
Yeah.
But up until the moment, see, it's only when you start thinking about understanding white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, that the white supremacists become alerted. Bells go off.
Yeah.
Because they know they got us otherwise.
Okay.
They tell us what sex is, and they tell us what it ain't. And now they're saying, it ain't no such thing as sex. Where do you get that from? Now, I'll tell you what you're going to do, you black people, when it comes to this thing you call sex, because I know all about it, and you don't know nothing. So they have us doing whatever you see black people doing. And when they want us to stop, they just make us stop and start doing something else.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You got to know what white supremacy means. Otherwise, you don't know what nothing means.
And how it works, remember?
And how it works.
Yeah. Okay. RT, thank you. All right, listen, KQ, and Nicole, man. Okay, KQ, you. Let me see if I can get you. There you go. You're there. Good morning. And what is your question for Mr. Fuller?
Good morning. Sorry, give me 1 second.
Yeah, you got to be quick because we're on a time limit here. Go ahead.
Okay, good morning. My question is, well, first, good morning, Mr. Bobby. Good morning, Mr. Fuller.
Good morning. Mm-hmm.
My question is for Mr. Fuller is, based on your code and the logic, non-white people are being dominated in all 9 areas of people activity. Would you suggest non-white people attempt to get out of the 9 areas of people activity?
No. What do you mean by getting out of it?
Yeah.
These are just labels. See, I have to ask you a question now, even though I'm supposed to be answering questions, but I don't understand how that would be done. I mean, these are just labels. Like you label a car. Now, you can get in and out of a car, but it's still a car. So, if I'm going to get out of economics, what is economics? First of all, let's get these labels straight. Economics is the use of time and energy.
Energy, yes.
When you're born, you have time and you have energy. A baby is, you see a baby got energy. A baby is kicking and crying and doing a whole bunch of stuff. That's energy. Now, how do you get out of energy? You'd be dead, I guess. That's so. How do you get out of 9 areas of activity? And why would I need to know that? That's another thing. what would I be getting out of the areas of activity for?
And going into.
And going into. When you're getting out of something, you're going into something else. Labor just means doing something. Anytime you're doing something, that's labor, which is the same thing as using time and energy. So how do you get out of not being a laborer when labor means you're doing something? How do you get out of doing? Well, you can be dead, but even when you're dead, you're doing something.
Yeah, you're dead.
Yeah. Yeah, you're doing something when you're dead. I mean, when leaves die, leaves are doing something. They are dying. See, so how does a leaf get out of doing the something called dying? And what would that mean? Once I change the label and call it something else, well, it ain't a leaf, and it ain't dying, and it ain't doing nothing.
Yeah.
So now what have I got?
Yeah, what is it?
I mean, in other words, what is the question for? Every question is supposed to have an answer that produces what? A constructive result.
Constructive result.
So what constructive result am I looking for if I do away with the 9 areas of activity? And say that they don't exist.
Yeah. Interesting. All right, K. Crew. Thank you so much for your...
I don't have the answer.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. The
Last
answer is... Right.
Last call. Thank you, K. Q. Okay, Nicole. Oh, yeah, there we go. I thought that... Ooh, man. Okay, Nicole, you're on. You're the last caller. Go ahead, please.
Okay, good morning, Mr. Bobby. Good morning, Mr. Fuller.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so it seemed like we kind of summed up America's definition of laissez-faire, if I pronounced that correct. And then I kind of wanted to add, because in the 60s and the 70s, it was what you was applying of your principles of your book. Later in life, I had the opportunity, I feel like, in 1999 to about 2007 to be a part of a movement, which brings me to the ultimate white supremacist. And you have taught me, since I've been listening to your show, is not say that I was blackballed, to pronounce it as a prisoner of war. And I'm still trying to figure out how to apply your principles in all type of situations. I mean, even when now I'm facing a charge Friday with burning the hair, which is an Indian tradition of white supremacy, using their uniform and badges to even try to get you to go to jail 10 years for burning hair on your stove. You know, so I do appreciate the opportunity to speak to you often and to just listen in. And I respect the fact that you always say, you know, you don't know everything. And if you need correction, correct you, because as an elder, you are listening to our elders, which you are one. However, elders can also be redirected to recreating a new question or a new platform. So I just appreciate you that no question is ever too far-fetched or crazy that you never try to not answer. So today was just appreciation of that knowledge to continue for my generation, which is considered X, and I never say X, I always say next generation, of creating a way to fight white supremacy and for us to finally win that. So I hope that in my lifetime that I actually see that we really bring what the 60s and the 70s was starting with the late Dr. Wilson and many others that was teaching us how to first educate our mind in a way to prepare us for any type of war with white supremacy and how to actually win that. So I just thank you today, Mr. Neely Fuller.
All right. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you for your call. Mr. Fuller, as we wind down the program in respect for Nicole's comment, as you answer this, could you start off with, if you could, the concept of America, which I think will help her out when you explain what that concept is?
Well, America, according to the code, it's not a place, They are people. And they are people who function based on a concept. And that concept, fundamentally, is a word called justice. So an American is a person that practices justice. And what is justice? Justice is a person that guarantees that no one is mistreated and that guarantees that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help in every area of activity, all the time, in all places, without exception. That's also the definition of an African and an Asian. The definition for American, African, Asian, these are compensatory definitions. African, American, Asians are people who practice justice, justice meaning guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. If you don't do those things, you are not an American, you are not an African, and you're not an Asian. The 3 A's. You're neither one of those 3 things. So, in the system of white supremacy, since you can't have justice and white supremacy on the same planet at the same time, there is no such thing as an American, no such person, rather, as an American, no such person as an African, and no such person as an Asian. There are white supremacists, and then there are white people, and then there are the victims of white supremacy. Just 3 categories of people on the entire planet. That's it. No Africans, no Americans, no Asians. Because you can't practice white supremacy and have justice on the same planet at the same time. So therefore, that rules out the existence of an American. Now, if a person says, oh, yeah, I mean, no, you got Americans, and then you say, okay, well, do you have justice? Is an American a person that practices justice? You can move to that second question. That is the question. Does an American practice justice? And if the person says yes, you say, well, where is an American? And just point to anybody. Let somebody point out this person who is an American, because Americans practice justice. They just said so. Okay? You can't be an American without doing justice. So now this person has to prove that you got white supremacy and you have justice. But you can't have both.
Mm-hmm. Can't have both.
You can't have justice and the system of white supremacy on the same planet at the same time. And since an American practices justice, it means you don't have no Americans.
Mm-hmm.
Not yet. That's an idea. And everybody should want to be an American. Mm-hmm. And everybody should want to be an African. And everybody should want to be an Asian. That's in the textbook.
Got to leave it there, Mr. Fuller. Sorry to cut you off, but our time limit has run off. Listen, everybody, get the book. Going to buy ProduceJustice.com. That's how you get it. Thank you for your listenership. Thank you for your patience. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Moonpie. Thank you, Sharon, for giving us an extra 10 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Be listening to you on Thursday. Everybody have a great week, and we hope to see you next week. Thank you.
ProduceJustice.com.
Yes.